Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with another episode of our Battle Brothers Let's Play. So you might notice that there's something a bit weird about the video right now, and that's because basically you guys may have heard of the whole like ransomware thing that was going on, and Windows immediately released a ransomware patch. And so obviously I downloaded the patch and updated and everything, and apparently that reset not only my sound configuration, but it also changed my default microphone. And so I sat down to record a couple episodes of Battle Brothers, and it turns out that my microphone wasn't picking up any sound because the computer was set to pick up a different microphone. So rather than completely scrap those episodes, because this one was pretty good, the two following this are going to be probably some of the most exciting episodes that we've ever had. So I didn't want to just completely get rid of them. So I'm going to be doing post commentary rather than sort of like, I don't know, like current commentary. So yeah, I'll be sort of watching the video along with you guys and give you my commentary on what happens rather than playing the game and talking about it as I do. So in the last episode, we left off in Eichholz, as you can see. And we needed to hire a couple of people. We're down to about 12 men now after losing to some orcs. And so in a second here, I'll open up the roster and we can kind of take a look. Basically, Casper is on our right flank now. He's got 3 stars in melee defense, so he's got pretty good potential in that spot. And then Balder, while not being particularly good and having a lot of permanent injuries that are holding him back, he's going to be filling in for now. So we're going to keep our eyes open for some more people to hire. And let's see, where are we headed next? I think we're going to wait until daylight here, yeah. And then see if they have anybody worth hiring or anything in the market that would be worth taking a look at. But yeah, I was real disappointed that happened because, frankly, those episodes were so exciting, and then to just completely, like, lose them would suck so bad. And I don't think I could replicate it if I were to try to play them over again. So basically, we have 2 options here. We're looking for melee characters specifically, and these guys, well, Oswald could be a melee character, but the other one was a hunter, not really going to help us. And then there wasn't anything in the market that we needed. We had sold them a bunch of stuff, so it looks like we're just going to pick up some food and probably be on our way. We have a ton of money, by the way, like almost 5,000 crowns. And I think here I'm checking to make sure everybody's got bandages. I think, yeah, and everybody does. And then we'll go ahead and level Mieszko up. He's level 8, which I think he's the first character to hit level 8, or at least one of the first. I'm pretty sure not even Bram is level 8 yet. So it looks like we're going to go Fatigue, Resolve, and Melee Attack. And then for his perk, let's see, what did we choose here? I honestly don't remember. It looks like I'm thinking about going Battle Forged, but because he doesn't take a lot of direct damage, I don't think I ended up going with Battle Forged. I'm also pointing out right there that Colossus could be useful, but because his HP isn't at 80, there are better things to take. And I think I actually end up settling on Crossbow Mastery here. So yeah, I decided to go with Crossbow Mastery, and it makes sense because it means that he'll build up less... Actually, no, he won't build up less fatigue. Or will he build up less fatigue using it? Either way, it makes him do more damage with the crossbow, which is just as good. So, we had been in Undheim recently, and so we decided to head south instead to Grubenfest. So, I will break here and come back when we get there. Alright, so we arrive in Grubenfest, and there is basically everything we could want in Grubenfest. So, they have an armor, they have a weaponsmith, they have a tavern. So I think what we do here is we end up buying 1 new suit of armor, and I would have liked to grab a helmet, but I don't think we ended up having enough coin to do it. We're also looking at potential hires. We've got a bastard there for a lot of crowns. I don't like hiring characters that are that expensive. You're paying mostly for the gear, and I don't really want their gear because I have my guys equipped in better gear than that, so I would end up basically just selling the gear and probably not making as much as I spent. Then we have Alfgeir there, who is a disowned noble. His His skills are potentially very, very high given the daily wage he's asking for, but again, he costs 2,000 crowns to hire. So I was a bit reluctant to do that. And then we had Torhelm, the farmhand there, who's a lot cheaper, significantly cheaper, but only 9 for his daily wage, meaning he's probably better than all the 8s on there, but not nearly as good as some of these other guys that we're looking at. Alright, so here we're taking another look at Alfgeir. And then I guess we looked at the weaponsmith. I don't know why. They had fighting spears there, but they're almost 4,000 crowns. So, you know, we're obviously not going to bother with that. So I believe we're going to take a reinforced mail hauberk here. Because we need... I think we have 2... I want to say 2 guys on our front line currently do not have them. So all but like 7 out of 9 basically have the reinforced mail hauberks, which is the chainmail with the metal pauldrons and the studded leather chest piece. So rather than buy one, it looks like I decided to maybe seek a better price on it. Instead, we're going to look at the job here, and it looks like they want us to escort somebody to Brunstad, which is kind of far away, so I think we decide not to accept that one. Okay, apparently I did grab an armor. And then I'm looking at this helmet. I think what we end up doing here is we end up selling some of our inventory and then buying that helmet, because I do recall picking that helmet up. So I think we basically get rid of some of our extra helmets and armors and then use that to cover sort of the difference. So we get rid of 2 of the nasal helms there, and then I believe a couple of shields, yeah. So all of those. What else? I think we keep most of the weapons. Well, we definitely keep most of the weapons. I think we keep all of the weapons, actually. Because we always need backups, especially when we're facing undead and, you know, so on. So I think I instead sell off a couple of armors. That one, and I believe the leather lamellier. Yeah. So that gives us a little bit of breathing room if we purchase that helmet, which we end up doing. Because it is like, what, 1,500, and we have about 18, so that leaves us with like enough crowns for about a day's worth of wages if we have to travel and look for work. So we grab it, and I believe we end up giving it to Jacques the Templar, because Bram already has a better helmet. Jacques is the next most veteran character in our front line, and so therefore he is probably the most deserving. I mean, there are other people that are, you know, equally deserving, maybe, but considering he's, you know, equally important and has been with us longer than them, I think he earns it. And then obviously nobody in the back line is going to be getting a helmet upgrade anytime soon, in part because the mail coifs are really the best thing that you can give to archers. Anything else will hurt their vision. And that's sort of the issue I'm running into with our pikemen / crossbowmen as well, is that their current helmets are hindering their vision, making them a little bit less effective with the crossbows. But at the same time, they do find themselves in melee combat, and so I'm reluctant to downgrade their helmets just to make them a little bit more accurate when they're skirmishing. But it's something we kind of have to find a balance with. So maybe if I can find more kettle helms, I'll go with that, because I think they do less of a vision penalty than the nasal helms do. And then here I'm saying that we're probably going to head down to House Horn's territory, the banner with the sun on it, and sort of just run around in that area, because the settlements there are very tightly clustered, and so we can usually find a lot of work very quickly. But of course, on the way there, we're going to pass Alderfest, so we may as well stop in. And I believe they end up having some work for us. Or maybe not. Oh yeah, they have a 3-skull mission that we, I think, end up deciding not to do. It's just a little bit too dangerous looking. Yeah, I don't think we buy anything here. We don't really have the money to do it. And then we're keeping an eye out for anybody else who's worth hiring. We're also keeping an eye out for a tailor, because we need a tailor in order to craft direwolf armor. We do have the pelts, but we do not have the guy to craft it. I'm not sure what that guy up at the top is. I probably should have checked. I don't know that I did, but that doesn't look like a tailor. That doesn't look like the Taylor icon, but I could be wrong. Caravan hand, okay. And then we look at this job. 3 skulls, they're offering almost 3,000 crowns, and I think after we haggle, they end up offering more, or actually just under. They want me to kill a bunch of greenskins, and I think we decided not to because we had been facing a lot of greenskins lately and taking a lot of casualties because of it. So we go ahead and skip that one and we head to Schnellen instead. That's a lot of crowns, but we'd probably end up spending a lot of it replacing, people that we lose. And we've been, losing a lot of people lately with all the orcs we've been fighting. So we've got 2 potential jobs here. This one, it was stupid of me. I accidentally clicked the wrong button. Yeah, I accidentally tried to haggle one more time, and so they decided not to offer me the job. But we ended up taking this one anyways. So they're offering about 1,000 crowns, and then they're willing to bump it up to almost 1,100. And basically, we just have to clear out a cave. Pretty typical stuff that we normally do. And I cannot recall what enemy type we end up fighting here. But because this was a noble house mission, we do have to travel quite a bit. And apparently it is orcs. At least it looks like orcs. Yeah, greenskins. So we'll be facing some orcs, although this should be a lot easier than the alternative mission we had against orcs, this being only a 2 skull. So yeah, we'll head on over there and see how we fare. So basically the plan here is, because we're so low on funds, we're going to fight this battle and hopefully collect a lot of loot. And then we're going to immediately head south to Hermannshof and sell that loot, because that should be enough to cover the cost of us traveling back to collect our pay. It looks like we're facing a bunch of orc young and a few orc warriors. So this is not going to be an easy battle by any means, but again, the other one would have been a lot worse. Let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, so immediately we see 3 orc warriors. Or actually, that's 2 warriors and 1 orc young. There's 9 of them in total, so I don't recall what the exact ratio is, but they have a lot more orc warriors than I would have liked facing. Our plan is basically going to be to riddle them with missile fire as much as we can, and then you can see me like waving the mouse around trying to point at what I'm doing. Basically, we're just going to spear wall and use our range advantage as best we can here. And so that guy up front is going to be our main target, although we missed 2 really easy shots there at like 60+%. And I think Alexander lands this one at 47. Yep. So I think we see, like, how many is that? 3, 7, that's all 9 of them, yeah. So it's only 2 orc warriors, could be a lot worse. We're not doing so great with our ranged attacks, though. In part because they have the high ground, so we're at a slight disadvantage, but at the same time, we do land a couple of hits, which is better than nothing. And then, of course, we're going to set up the spear wall, as we always do. I don't remember if we end up countercharging on this one, because their inferior numbers mean that they can't really flank us in a way that they would normally like to. So there's no reason for us to try to like mitigate all the charges, because they basically all have to charge our spears. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. So in comes another orc warrior. Well, not another, but he moves forward, and then this guy moves down. They're basically trying to set up a charge here, but I think we end up countering it fairly well. This battle does get a bit hairy, though, as you'll see. However, I don't think we end up taking any casualties. I could be wrong, because it has been a while since I recorded this, but if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think we end up losing anybody. Although we come very, very close. So he's trying to set up for a charge, definitely. They're all going to stop 1 tile away so that they can basically jump in and attack us. But they are going to try testing our spears, and of course they'll fail at least a couple of times. So it's Vlad's turn. I don't know why I'm gesturing toward Merrick there. I think I'm discussing the merits of a charge. And I don't remember if I decide for or against it. So we'll see. But yeah, I think I'm talking about a charge right there. And it looks like we're going to land 2 successful hits there, so he's basically dead. We've got 2 guys in the front that are still completely untouched, and then 2 guys on the near side that are severely wounded, but we can't get good shots on them from that position. They've got 3 skirmishers at the moment, which is a bit annoying, but what can you do? Anytime you can push back an orc warrior with a spear wall is, you know, very, very good for you. So pretty happy to have that one there. And then 2 successful axe throws, which is a lot better than we normally do. Balder ends up tiring himself out throwing those axes, so he couldn't finish the guy off. Another issue is Casper's fatigue is really, really poor. He can only spear wall once before he runs out of fatigue. So that's something in the next few episodes we work on. We get him some more fatigue. But for now, we just have him put his shield up so he's a little bit less likely to get stunned should the enemy charge him. And then Bram nearly gets the kill there. He cannot hit the second one, though, and so that orc will live to charge us. He doesn't get the stun, so that went about as well as it could have. Although that orc warrior immediately jumps in on Casper and makes things a little bit sketchier for us. They continue to skirmish ineffectively. I think one of them lands a hit on one of my archers, but beyond that, I don't think they really do anything. Yeah, I think that was the only hit they ended up landing. We basically just keep firing right back. We get a kill there on him. And then Mieszko takes, I think, a free shot here and then switches his weapon. So I think he goes for the kill there. And then he switches over to his pike and attacks the big guy. Yeah. And so our goal with him is basically just to try to tear through his armor as quickly as possible. He's going to muscle Casper out of the way and attack Mieszko, who's a lot more vulnerable. And it's a pretty successful hit. Mieszko almost gets one-shotted. But luckily he doesn't. Over here, Balder is now facing down an orc warrior and an orc young. And so he's going to attack the orc's armor. Meanwhile, we're going to continue the spear wall everywhere else, in the hopes that we can hold the rest of them off long enough to defeat them down here. Casper has no choice really but to just keep chipping away at that armor. Once you get through their armor, they are much easier to deal with, obviously. Your hits are a lot more effective, so basically all you can do is try to whittle away at it. If you have hammers, that's a great way to deal with them. That's just something we don't have access to yet, but something that we could get. We end up passing his turn. I don't think I hit the right button there. I don't remember if I deferred it or passed it. But either way, he couldn't spear wall, so there was really no move for him other than advancing. I don't remember what I end up doing with Bram here, so let's see. I think because the spear wall is broken down there, I end up charging to avoid any stuns. They only have 2 more orcs back there, so if I do decide to charge here, I can pretty much get rid of everybody else's charge opportunity. And then we headshot him with the flail and do a pretty significant hit. And then Jorah steps in to try to finish him off. He doesn't quite do it, but he does land a pretty significant blow. Sinric is going to have to stay there, so I didn't click the wrong button. He ends up getting pinned by that orc, is what happened. It's coming back to me. It's coming back to me. So they continue to skirmish ineffectively. Jorah is going to finish that guy off. And that basically turns the battlefield into a mess. Balder's shield gets destroyed right there. We're going to continue to try to damage the orc warrior there. Mostly ineffectively, but again, just chipping away at the armor. Christopher is going to target another one of the orcs in the back. I think Alexander is going to take the same target. So that's 2 pretty good hits. He's near death now at this point. And yeah, we're getting some unfortunate headshots there. We didn't want to have to deal with his armor and his helmet. but you can't really pick and choose where you land those hits. But that's like 3 unnecessary headshots in a row there. And then looks like he bounces one off the shield there. I don't know that we move up over there. I think we're actually going to continue spear walling and force him to commit to one side or the other. Yeah. So if he wants to advance toward Merrick, he's going to have to step into the spear wall. Otherwise, he's going to have to move down where I have heavier hitters, basically. And that's exactly what he decides to do. So he wants to engage Bram, which is fine. Bram is probably the best person to have on one of those guys because his flail is pretty effective against any target. Balder's going to take 2 really fierce hits there. Bram's going to just protect himself because he's a little bit too tired to do anything else this turn. And then Jacques unfortunately gets stunned. So Jorah's going to land a headshot on that orc. That one's going to get the final charge off. And then Mieszko is going to nearly destroy his armor, but unfortunately he didn't quite do enough damage. I think Vlad ends up getting the rest of it there. Nope, another headshot. Christopher is going to target the only orc he really has a decent shot at. And then Balder gets dropped by a young orc. However, it is worth mentioning that he was struck down and not killed. He is a survivor, so there's a 90% chance that he does not die when he gets downed. And as you see there, that ended up working in his favor. So I think here, yeah, we're going to advance on him. We'll finish him off with the next attack against him. So I think Callie gets him right there, yep. Then we end up surrounding that orc warrior. Bram is, again, pretty tired, so all he can do is one attack there and then hope for the best. This one down here continues to muscle its way through our lines, which really, really frustrates me. That's, like, I don't mind them being so difficult to damage, but the fact that they can just, like, completely, like, look at our formation. It's completely just utter havoc right now. So Mieszko lands another big hit, but he's basically just hanging on by a thread. Yeah, I think we continue to focus on that orc warrior because he's the biggest threat to us over there. Christopher gets his, or we thought about taking his pike out, but because he doesn't have quick hands, he would end up losing a turn. So I end up just using the bow instead. We get shield bashed off to the side there for some reason, and then he steps in against Bram. But that's fine because we end up surrounding the orc warrior even more, and that ends up working more to our favor than theirs, actually. So why they did that, I'm not entirely sure. But Alexander's going to get his axe out, step down, and then take a big swing at the orc warrior. And yeah, ends up completely destroying his armor. Merrick is sort of out of the loop here, so he's got to work his way around so that he can engage. Callie is going to just keep chipping away at this orc here, and now that his armor is destroyed, he should be a lot easier to handle. Jorah with 2 dodges there, which is nice to see because, frankly, if he gets hit, he's really going to feel it. And Vlad has to switch weapons because he's engaged. The orc warrior there tried to flee and was killed by Mieszko, so that ended up working out for us. Jorah has to decide who he wants to attack here. I think we end up going after the orc warrior. Oh, I think I'm trying to figure out based on the feed what happened. Oh, so Vlad got him. Excuse me, Vlad got him, not Mieszko. But he did flee. Or at least try to. And Mieszko is, obviously going to target this guy. At this point, there's only 3 of them left, so we basically have the battle in hand. But their orcs are always dangerous, even if there's only a few of them, so we have to be very careful here. And we continue to prioritize the big guy. Merrick's going to step up and then start targeting this one here. And he's got a pretty good height advantage on that guy, so that'll work to his favor. And then we finally down the big guy. Casper is going to slide in here and do a little bit of damage there. Vlad might finish him off there. Yes, he does. And then he'll advance so that he can target the other orc. And at this point, there's only 1 left, so the battle is basically won here. He really doesn't have any chance of damaging either Jacques or Mieszko there, and I think Bram finishes him on this one. Yep. So, of course, Balder survives. Oops, I didn't mean to move the mouse there. He does take another permanent wound. He gets a maimed foot, but he does level up. And so, I've basically decided to just keep him around because he's really hard to kill and he's completely fine with being on the sidelines. So he's worth keeping for that reason alone, despite the fact that these injuries keep adding up and making him worse and worse. And then we get 2 other level ups there. We also get a decent amount of loot that we can sell to help cover our travel costs. And then of course we leave behind like the human meat or whatever it is. And then yeah, so I mean that could have gone better, but it certainly could have gone a lot worse for us. So I end up calling that one a pretty good victory, all things considered. You know, three wounds, only one of which was permanent, and nobody died. So we go ahead and do our level ups here. I think we go health, fatigue, and defense there. We end up giving him gifted so that we can level him up again. And then we go fatigue. I think we go resolve and defense. Or no, melee skill and defense. And we have nobody else to sub in, so we just leave him in there for now. With Sinric, I think we go spear mastery. Yeah, spear mastery. And then we end up giving him, I believe, health, fatigue, and I want to say melee skill. But I could be wrong. At this point, I think I'm trying to do the math and figure out if that's a good roll or a medium roll. But he's already got quite a bit of HP. So, let's see. I'm pretty sure I go with melee skill there, yeah. And I think I end up deciding on HP. It's HP or resolve. What's it going to be? I honestly don't remember, so it's one or the other. Right now I think I'm discussing like the math behind it, because at 3 stars I think 5 is not the maximum roll. So I end up going with resolve because I think 4 is closer to a maximum roll on resolve with his only 1 star. And then we still have Jorah to level up. So we go ahead and do that. And I'm just noticing now that I forgot to equip that extra suit of armor for that battle. So things actually could have gone smoother had I done that, but it's not that big a deal. Again, we didn't lose anybody. And Balder probably would have been downed regardless, so not really the end of the world there. And then for his last level up, I think I give him HP or melee skill. But that's a pretty bad melee skill roll. I think I end up going with HP because that 2 for melee skill was the minimum roll he could have gotten with that 1 star. So it would have been 2 to 4 rather than 1 to 3 because of that. So it was basically the worst roll I could have gotten, so I decided to skip it. And I think we end up going Backstabber with him here because, as you guys know, Backstabber gives plus... It says plus 10%, but it's essentially plus 5 because you already get a base... You already get a base plus 5 without the perk. So it's essentially an additional plus 5 for each ally surrounding the target. I basically end up taking it because every enemy engaged with my front line is surrounded by at least 2. So it's an additional plus 10 to hit against any enemy that Jorah targets, basically, which is, you know, really nice to have and makes him more effective. I'm not sure why I'm thinking about this for so long, but I end up taking it. And do we allocate that armor now, or let's see. Oh yeah, we're taking stock of our injuries, so they're both hurt pretty bad, but they'll heal, so it's not that big a deal. And because we have because we'll get so much money from this job, we should be able to hire people to replace them fairly easily. And then we're going to make quite a bit of money from selling these orc weapons as well. I think we get over 1,000 crowns for them. So it ends up being a pretty lucrative mission if you count the loot we gain as well. So we sell the furs, we sell all the orc weapons, and it comes out to like 1,500 or something. It ends up being a pretty good sum. Yeah, I think it's just the stuff at the bottom there. So we get rid of all of that, and yeah, 1586, which is pretty good, considering that was just the loot that we picked up, and we can't really make use of it ourselves. And then I think I'm debating whether or not I should try trading those cloth rolls, and I decide against it. But I think we do grab a little bit of food. And I think that is it. Yeah, we'll sort our stuff and then leave. And then we look at the potential hires here. I believe we take Arn and Hakon here, in part because they're really, really cheap. Again, I like hiring people that are basically minimum upfront costs. And he ends up being a pretty interesting character because he's got potential for range skill and for range defense. And so he could be a pretty good backline character, whether it be maybe an archer or even like a pikeman of some sort. So definitely somebody worth keeping around, and especially considering that he cost us almost nothing. Definitely worth just taking a look at. He's also got Iron Lungs, which gives him passive fatigue recovery, which is really, really cool. It's one of the best like I don't know what to call it. One of the best traits you can have, basically. Then we take another look at the marketplace to sell his junk, and then we'll go back and hire Hakon, I believe, just because he's so cheap. I don't think he ends up being all that great. His daily wage is only 8, meaning he's pretty average as early hires go. But he does have high fatigue and a little bit of potential in resolve and hit points. So he could just be a frontline fodder. He's also a dastard, which means that he starts combat with wavering morale, and he's always content with being in reserve. So he's kind of a nice additional character to keep, just like sort of as a bench warmer if I ever need anybody to fill in, and then we end up buying everybody around just to make them a little bit happier, since our morale was not terrible but not the best either. And then we'll head on back to Schnellen. Alright, so we end up coming up on Lansenburg on the way back to Schnellen, and since we don't really have to make any detour, we end up stopping off here anyway. And we look at the armory, but everything's kind of expensive there, so we pop into the market. We end up finding, I think, a set of chainmail for a lot less than it would normally be. We also take a look at the potential hirelings here, and I believe we end up taking Alfred the Mauler because his 11 daily wages would suggest that he's probably a pretty good fighter, and because he's only 150 up front, we have like nothing to lose by giving him a shot, essentially. So I believe we end up hiring him, and that's 15 in our party, which is a pretty good number. We don't need any more beyond that. His skills, though, are a bit lacking. I assumed he would be better based on his pay. He's got really good initiative, though, so something like dodge would be good for him. But as far as a combatant goes, he's extremely average, I guess. Interesting. I thought we grabbed that armor there. I think we end up getting it either, maybe in the next episode we go over there and grab it. But there's a set of chainmail there for like 300. And we end up taking it because it's a lot less than like the 600 they're normally asking. But anyway, we end up collecting our pay for 1470. And I think he ended up giving us more than we had negotiated for or something. That's why it was a bit... I was reading through that a bit more than I normally would. Because I think they agreed on roughly 1100 and we ended up getting almost 15 for it. So basically that's the end of the episode. Let me know how you guys feel about post commentary. Again, I'm only going to do it for this episode and the next two, just because of what happened, and I don't want to lose those episodes completely. But I don't know how I feel about doing post commentary. It's a lot harder than doing it while you're playing, because I'm trying to like remember what happened, and if I'm reacting to it, it's not like I can pause to sort of talk about what I'm reacting to. So it's a bit weird. It's a bit more difficult than doing like current commentary. But again, I didn't want to lose these episodes, and I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy the next two. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I always have a great time playing Battle Brothers with you, and I look forward to seeing you guys back here for the next episode.